During the winter and spring holidays of 2012, and at the weekends in between, around 20 Powerhouse Museum volunteers became storytellers here in the King's Cinema at the Powerhouse Museum. Here, some of the readers reflect on their experience and offer their best storytelling tips and tricks.
So I was really surprised about how popular it was. We had so many people in some sessions we were turning them away. We had full sessions, multiple times on the same day. And so it was really great to see how many people were so into it, even though it was sort of 30 or 40 minutes.
When they got back to the lamppost, they waved goodbye. Lucy ran back and began to pull back branches until she felt the soft fur coats.
What I like most is the children's reaction, because they seem to be hanging on your every word.
It was wonderful to be playing to a full house. Out of my 3 readings, I had 2 full houses.
Please join us in the King's Cinema. The Narnia storytelling session will start shortly.
I had a lot of kids who came down and said thank you, wanted to talk about the book, that they wanted to read it or that they had read it, wanted to go home and watch the films.
I was surprised to find out how many did actually think it was just a movie, and so this was actually great to open their eyes to know that it actually stemmed from a wonderful book. I hope not only did it help the children, but mums and dads to actually go home and read books to their kids.
For The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, there's a great synergy between the fact that it's set at the time of the Second World War and the King's Cinema dates from around the same period. So we're actually in the right sort of atmosphere, the right sort of environment for this particular story.
It's great presenting it in the King's Cinema because you can see, because it's higher up, you can actually see people.
Children enjoy a story and they all know what to do when they come in for a story. They sit quietly and they get ready. And so it makes it quite easy to tell. Parents also enjoy the story a lot. And you'll find that even 3-year-olds will sit for your story.
In teams of 2, one person used a remote clicker to control the illustrations projected on the screen, keeping pace with the reader as they presented our half-hour version of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe.
The illustrations projected on the screen are great because they're just enough to prompt the imagination, just to kindle it for the children and adults, and then they can just use it's their own settings that they're putting things into, and I think that's much better than watching a movie personally.
It was quite interesting to follow the story. I enjoyed it myself as audience as well. Clicking to change the picture. Unfortunately, I missed it on one page, but next time if I have to do it, I will know. But you don't get terribly afraid about it. You just click it and you get to the right page.
As I did more and more of the reading of the story, you actually just sort of start to relax. It all becomes, okay, it's fine.
To the land of Narnia. Lucy saw a lamppost. Mr. Tumnus, I've come back. Turkish delight. I don't think he should have done that. Father Christmas. Aslan was on the move. The witch raised her stone knife. Is it more magic? Cried Susan. Yes, and there stood Aslan. Long live King Peter. They came tumbling out of the wardrobe into an empty room.
My top tip would be to rehearse.
Rehearsing is very important, I think, because it gets you to practice and to learn the story.
I took home a copy of a video of someone else reading the story and the script.
She might even make Edmund into a prince. Edmund said he'd try.
Turned the sound down and actually sat in the room on my own and read it out loud. And the more I did it, the more I could consider how the characters were feeling and how they would sound, rather than just what words they were saying. So I could start to concentrate less on the story and more about the feelings that people were having in the story.
No, I do think it is important to rehearse the story so that you know where you're going with it and don't kind of get confused halfway through because you've suddenly got 60 people watching you.
It's important to get the words of the name places in your story correct and the character names, so practice, practice, practice.
I think you get the tone, and when you're speaking aloud, you can get the different voices. You can get them, like Aslam's voice, because you've got quite a few voices there that you have to do.
Well, I have 3 voices when I tell a story. Basically, I have a narrative voice where I'm reading the story. I have a voice for the characters, and I also have a particular voice for when I'm asking the audience questions. I think everybody should give character voices a try. It adds a lot of depth to your story and a lot of tension as well. Now, one of the ways you can do that is to practice your story at home and then highlight in different colors the different sort of voices that you'd like. Sometimes just keeping it pretty simple is good too.
This is my Aslan voice.
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 If you're going to get confused and come out with, this is my Aslan voice, well, it's probably better just to stick with 1 or 2, like the main characters, like Aslan and the Evil Queen.
This is my evil queen's voice.
This is my evil queen voice.
This is my wicked witch voice.
This is my evil witch voice.
She was like that. She was a nasty piece of work.
I think the interactive areas in the story where you're actually asking a question of the audience can feel like a bit of a challenge. But I addressed it by leaning forwards and actually asking a question of a specific individual. Now, if somebody else put their hand up and answered, that was great. And sometimes you didn't get an answer at all. But just sitting back and reflecting the answer seemed to work really well.
If they give you a wrong answer, it's another thing. You have to go, oh, well, it's, you know, and just, you can't say it's wrong. You just have to say what the right answer is in the book.
And the reality is that most people in the audience don't hear the answer that you hear. So even if they get it wrong, it's not too difficult to bring it back into line and carry on with the story. Occasionally you'll get a disruptive or noisy child.
And my way of dealing with it would be to just ignore them, let their mum or their dad or whoever they're here with deal with them themselves, and just keep going, not stop and spoil the story for the other kids.
If people do come and go during the reading, it's not a comment on your personal performance. They could have some place to go or have an appointment. As a reader, if someone gets up to leave, don't concentrate on them, concentrate on the person next to them who's staying behind.
Ladies and gentlemen, mums and dads, this story will take about 30 minutes. Just letting you know so that you can relax, sit back and relax.
On one of my sessions, I didn't have the microphone set up properly, so really getting it fitted closely and having a good sound check with members of the support crew before the audience come in is real good. And then leave it in place and just turn the batteries off, and everything will be ready to go when you are.
You're hoping you're encouraging kids to read, or parents to read, and I be playing a part of that. And it's nice to be sort of, do a bit of acting.
I really loved it because just the looks on the kids' faces when they're so enthralled in the story, it really gives you a sense of that you're doing something meaningful for the kids.
I mean, I was scared to at the first part, and then I thought, no, well, got to do it. And then it wasn't scary, and yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I really loved it.
I loved it.
I really loved it.